Hello, I'm Graham Horton and welcome to my product review for the Viltrox H18 light stick. Now, in the previous video we looked at the Sprite 15C, which is this panel light, which is a multifunction light, and again very good value for money, about £42 in the UK. It's a bi-colour plus RGBW, and I'll put a link in the video description so you can have a look at this review as well. So today's review is around the H18, which is a large light stick. Light sticks are fantastic for adding accent lights to your video, such as the two blue LEDs in the back are Viltrox WeLight lights, and again I've got a small light for a fill light here on a light stand. So they are ideal for adding little accent lights around your studio. So this is a rather large light. You can see it on the table here. Let's have a look at some of the features of it. You can see that it is a 0 to 360 degrees color space, so we've got the complete hue from 0 to 360, bi-color temperature 2800 to 6800 Kelvin, and is 18 watts of power, delivering something like 2700 lux at 0.7 of a meter, and we'll validate those specifications shortly. Looking at the specifications on the side here, let me just zoom in for you. So here we can see the specification: 18 watts power, color temperature range 2800 to 6800 Kelvin, the illuminance of 2770 lux at 100% illumination with both the LEDs lit at 5600 Kelvin at 0.7 meters. Color rendering index and TLCI are both greater than 95. Brightness from 0 to 100% and 0 to 360 degrees of hue. Roughly 2 hours endurance with the battery at 100% power. You can also power this from the supplied DC power brick, which is 24 volts, 1 amp, 24 watts, with a 5.5 by 2.5 millimeter connector. So those are the basic specifications. Let's have a look at the product itself, unbox it and show you its operation. So this is the product when it's been unboxed. As with all the sort of higher grade but Viltrox products, you do get these nice padded carry cases. So let's just have a look at this inside. The usual multi-language instruction sheet, which gives you all the parameters and setups for using the light. We've got a power brick, which is the 24 watt or 24 volt 1 amp power supply with the respective power cord. Got the light stick itself, and we're supplied with a small tripod which allows you to mount the light on a table, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So let's just have a look at the light. As you can see, it's quite a long device. It's roughly 24 inches long. It's got removable barn doors which you can use on either side of this light. It is a dual-sided light with RGB on one side and bi-color LEDs on the other side. So you can either have the bi-color lights on, which give you the 2800 to 6800 Kelvin range, or you could have the RGBW lights on, which give you that 0 to 360 color temperature range. So these light baffles can be installed or removed simply by just pushing up on the fixture, which allows you to move them off the hexagonal mount. They are a little bit tight, but you don't want them moving off in production. So let me just try and move them off. Like so. So you can totally remove the barn doors if you wanted to and just use the light stick as it stands. Notice in both ends of the light stick there is a 1/4-20 brass threaded insert, so on the top and on the bottom, so you can actually use this with a supplied small tripod, which will screw into that 1/4-20, and then you can use this on the table, or you can use that 1/4-20 thread. So you could use that on a table like so, Or you could use that 1/4 thread on the light stand and support it with a magic arm to take some of the weight off the light. Mounting possibilities there from both ends. If you wanted to use it for product photography and wanted to get the light closer to the desktop, then you can actually put the tripod in the other end and stand the light source like so, so you get a much lower light to illuminate your product that you're trying to photograph or video. So let's look at this light in a little bit more detail. Here on the left hand side of the light stick is the main power on off button. On the front face we have the multifunction dial and mode change dial, OLED display so you can see the parameters that you've got set with the light, and on the other side we've got our 5.5 by 2.5 DC jack for powering or charging the light. To turn on the device we just need to press the switch to the up position. With the light turned on, here on the top you can see we've got the mode, which is CCT, color temperature, our channel and our group. So we've got 19 channels and 6 groups we can set up. Battery status indicator, intensity and color temperature. To change between intensity and color temperature we just use the up and down arrow key on the controller. So if you wanted to increase the intensity we just rotate the dial to increase that. Want to change the color temperature, then obviously just drop down to color temperature, and again you can use the dial to change the color temperature. You can use the plus and minus keys as well, but the dial is much quicker to get to the temperature you want, so 5600 Kelvin. Want to change the mode of the light, so at the moment we're using the bicolor lights which are on this side of the light. If we want to use the RGBW lights, we press and hold the center button, and you can now see that we've switched off the bicolor lights and we've now turned on the RGBW lights. So again, as you can see the mode on the top here, which is now HSL, and you then got the option of brightness, hue and saturation. So if we want to change the brightness, again we can reduce that value in 1% increments all the way down to 1. You do notice a slight change in color temperature as you get down to the lower end, but probably you're not going to be using the light below sort of 10% level, so the change in color temperature probably isn't a showstopper. Change the hue, again just press the button down so you can actually get to the hue. So if I wanted the blue at 240, let's just set up 240, and now I can change the intensity by just cursoring back up to the intensity, and again using the control to set up. So you can probably see now we're into a blue hue, and I can again just change the intensity with that rotary dial. So the next mode, if we press the mode button in the middle, would take us into the RGB, and again you can set RGB individually from red, green, so you can change the green component, and blue, you can change the blue component, so you can get 36,000 colors by setting each of the RGB values. Press the mode button one more time and you get into the color chip. So this allows you to use the Rosco or Lee effective color filters with this light. So with the chart you can see you can change Rosco to Lee, and then you can actually dial in the chip number that you want for a particular filter set, and again you can change the intensity with the dial. One more press puts you into a scene mode, and again there are 26 scene modes available on this light, and again you can vary the intensity, you can change the speed from slow to normal to fast, and again you can change the actual scene type with the commander at the bottom there. So you've got all the usual there: lightning flash, SOS, police truck, fire siren, all the usual effects if you want to use those in your video productions. One more press will take you back to the HSL mode. If you want to go back to the bicolor lights, then again a long press of the center button will put you back into the color temperature mode. Now the light can be controlled via the RC11 controller. This is an optional controller, it needs to be purchased separately, but it does give you the option of using Bluetooth 2.4 GHz signal to control the light on a light stand or in a position that you can't normally get to, so it is a useful controller for controlling the light. You can also use the WeLight Pro app to control the unit, and again it's quite simple to set up. So let me just set this up on the desk and I'll show you how the WeLight Pro app works in conjunction with the H18 light. So this is the WeLight Pro app. You can install it on Android or iOS devices. Here I've got it set up on the iPad mini. So once you've installed the app on your device, simply tapping that will bring up the device. You need to set up the group and channel number for your device. So if you've got multiple lights, you can set a specific number and group. So here I've got group D and channel 3. So that needs to be set up on the iPad. So here I've got group D and the channel number channel 3. So that means that now controlling the light from the iPad, no need to pair it, it's automatic. So now I can turn off the light by just sliding that on and off, so I can turn on the light. And now you can see I've got the color temperature, HSL, RGBWY, the XY coordinates, color chip, the effects, color picker and my scene mode. So again, with the color temperature, you can change the temperature of the light if you're in the bicolor mode. So I can actually change between the 2800 and 6800 temperature range. And if I needed to adjust the bias of the light, might want some magenta or green, then you can change the tint of the light. And again, you can change the intensity using the slider. You've also got the presets: 3000, 4000, 5200, 5500, 6000 and 7000. So you've got those independent adjustments there. If you want to go back to the home screen, there are a matrix of 9 dots here at the bottom of the app. If you just press that, it takes you back to the main menu. Going to HSL mode, then it will switch off the bicolor lights and turn on the HSL mode on the front of the unit. So automatic switching between the bicolor and the RGBW lights. So again, you can change the saturation. If we look at the color space here, so on the outside you're changing the hue, and towards the center you're changing the saturation. So you can change both hue and saturation using the color picker. You can obviously use the sliders and the intensity as well, but you can actually pick up the light color that you want from the color picker. So if you wanted blue full intensity, then just select blue, and you can see that equates to the 240 degrees for the blue. Again, back to the main menu, those 4 dots, the RGBWY, and again you can change the intensity of all the individual LEDs, so red, green, blue, white and yellow. You can change those and they will be affected on the light color temperature. Back to the main menu, we've got the XY coordinates. So here's the gamut of colors available with this light, so you can move anywhere within that gamut and you'll see you get a corresponding change in the light output dependent on your color picker. And again, if you wanted to look at the values, you've got the XY value, your Y value and your intensity, so you can change all those parameters from within the app. Color chip again uses the matrix. So here we can change between Roscoe and Lee, so I can change between Roscoe and Lee by tapping the icon on the screen. To turn on the actual chip itself, you need to slide the switch, which is here at the moment. If I just shade that from the overhead light, you can see we've got the slider here. When you slide that back to the home position, it will switch over to the RGB light on the unit and allow you to use the Rosco or the color swatches. If you switch that switch over again to the right, it will switch off the RGB lights and turn on the bicolor light. So if you're trying to change the chip and you're not seeing the effect, then just slide that switch over to the left hand side and allows you to use the Rosco or the color chips. Back to the home screen with those 9 dots, we've got the effects, and you can see on screen it's much easier to set up your effects using the app, because you've got a visual representation of the effect. So if you wanted the police, which would be the red and blue flashing light, then you can see that is easily selected. If you wanted the ambulance, which is just a double blue, or the fire truck, which would be a flashing red, you got the color loop, so a cycle between red, green, blue and all the other colors in between. Color waves, so green in wave, blue in wave, cyan, magenta and yellow, so it will cycle between low intensity and high intensity. So all those are available from the app. So candlelight, and again you can adjust the speed between slow, normal and fast, and again the intensity of the light can be adjusted from within the app. So it's quite a useful feature if you want to control this remotely. Go back to the main menu. Color picker is a little bit more difficult to demonstrate. It uses the camera of your smartphone or tablet to pick up a color which will be then reflected into the light stick. So at the moment, if I point the camera to the desktop, it's trying to pick up the color of the desktop and mirror that in the light. But if I move over there to this blue color swatch, you can see on the light it's now changed the light to blue. If I now move off that blue swatch and go to the desktop, you can see the color of the light changes, so it will try to reflect the color that you have got. Now additionally, with the color picker, you can use the camera itself, or you can use a photo. So if I switch to the photo mode, you can see if I go into photo mode, it allows me to select a photo and then use that to select the color. So let's go for this dandelion. It allows us to move and scale it if we wanted to take it bigger, and then we can click the use icon. That will now allow us to position the pickup point anywhere within the image, and you can see it's reflected into the light color. So if I go into the green down there, it will switch to green. If I move to the yellow, it will switch to yellow. Back to the main menu, and then you can set up my scene. If you've got any set up there, they'll appear on the list, but I haven't set up any of those for you in this demonstration. We go back to this color temperature mode. With the barn doors, it allows you to finely shape the light from the light stick itself. So rather than having a wash of light which goes everywhere from the light, if you install the baffles, and again being double-sided, you can either install the baffle on the bicolor light or onto the RGB. So in this case we want the light to be on the bicolor light, so we'll install the tube into the light baffle like so, and now we can shape the light by just pulling those together.
I don't know that.
So once we've got that slotted in place, then we can shape the light into a narrow beam or a wider beam, dependent on our application. So if you're doing product photography and just want to accent something, you can have a narrow beam With it being a dual power supply, you can either run it with the internal battery, and once that's fully charged you get about 110 minutes at full power. Want longer run times than that, then use a power brick and just plug it into the DC power socket on the left hand side. It will then charge the battery as well if you've got this in the off position. So that's the H18 light stick from Viltrox, a very nice little light. I'll put links to the Viltrox page where you can look at all the specifications and the current pricing for the light in the video description below. So that's it for the review. Hope you found that useful. Of course, if you're a new viewer and you're liking what you see, why not hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you'll be advised when I upload new videos to the channel. So check this light out, and also the Sprite 15C. They're both fantastic lights from Viltrox. I've used a lot of their lights in my small studio and they've been totally reliable and great value for money. So until the next video, thanks very much for watching. Please do take care, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Goodbye for now.